Welcome everybody to our second webinar in the series Masterclasses for Ukraine. My name is Esther Heijma, and Wendy and I will be the hosts tonight. Just a short introduction. Wendy is from World Psychologists, a foundation that focuses on making mental health care accessible for everybody with the use of a huge network of volunteers. And I am from PsyGlobal, which is linked, but we are trying to connect the international psychologists to the Dutch mental health system, so our professionals can get paid for what they're doing. Maybe we should say a bit about the series as well, Wendy.
Yes, welcome everyone. We set up 6 webinars, and tonight this is our second one. And we have also a topic of sexual violence and youth and addiction and grief. And today we have Maartje and Irina, and we are talking about how to cooperate. And we will start with the take-home message. And the take-home message is, it is possible to work together. So for all our Dutch psychologists and all for our Ukrainian psychologists who are listening right now, I think this will be very interesting because you both are pioneer and you figured a little bit already out, and it works. So if there is if there is question, you can ask in the Q&A questions, and we will see during your presentation what's coming up with the audience. And I think it's also very important when the webinar finished and there are psychologists from Ukraine or the Netherlands who want to have the cooperation, please contact Esther. She will also add her email address in the chat. PsyGlobal can provide and see if you can make a match. So that's we want to tell you before we go for the introduction to you, Esther.
Yeah, because we're very excited to have Maartje and Irina here tonight. We were and personally was looking very much forward to this webinar. I'm very curious what you are gonna tell us. Just a brief introduction. Maartje Lindemans is a psychotherapist with a lot of experience in working with personality disorder and psychotrauma. She has worked with some of the bigger mental health care institutions, but has now her own practice in Utrecht. And besides the clinical work, she's also a trainer and set up her own training center, EMDR Now.
Exactly.
Yeah, EMDR Nu, I have to say. And Irina, she's from Ukraine, and she's a clinical psychologist with a focus on positive psychotherapy and emotional focus therapy. And she has a lot of experience in working with families and children as well. Yeah, I think you're going to tell us much more about it. And like Wendy said, you are actually the first couple we know of that are working successfully together, and we'd love to hear about your collaboration.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we want to talk about well, how we met and how we started pioneering without knowing we were pioneers. For that matter, we just thought maybe we could work together, and well, that worked out really nice. And well, we gathered a lot of information. Of course, we tried to put in a lot of information in the webinar and in the sheets, but when people have questions, please ask them in the Q&A so we can try to answer. But also, if we tell, we are not telling information that you have, please feel free to share as well, because, well, that's what pioneers are. They are still working out a lot of things, and it would be nice to share also. So by sharing, I start sharing my screen with the PowerPoint first, because this is the most important message, I think. We can work together, and the last point on the screen is what is important, I think, is also to have fun together as colleagues. You see a picture of Irina and me last Saturday. We went out, we went to the performance of a band, and the band is the reason we are together, actually, because my husband is the drummer of the band, and there's also a pianist, and he is also a psychologist who teaches in Kiev. And when the war started, he went to the border with Ukraine, and he brought about 30 psychology students to the Netherlands. And also he brought Irina with him. He knew Irina for quite some time because he's a colleague of your mother. Is that right, Irina?
Yes, and I'm his former student. I participated in his course in Kiev and here in the Netherlands.
So they know each other, and as you can see, the band was together for 25 years, and it was a very big celebration. And Kilian and I know each other from our study in the Netherlands, but he went into a whole different kind of psychology, and he phoned me and he asked, well, would you like to tell Irina something about the Dutch mental health system? Because she really, really would like to work. She's in the Netherlands, and well, she needs the income, for example, but she also needs to be up and running, because otherwise, of course, that's what Tim talked about last week, I think. You might start, well, ruminating and everything, and it's good to have a purpose and to feel needed and to be able to work in the Netherlands. So that's why Kilian brought us together. And well, while Irina was at my place, in my practice, I thought, oh my God, how am I ever going to explain our system? Because it's really a complicated system, with insurance, with working with contracts with insurance companies, or without them try to explain the law, the BIG, we have in the Netherlands, all the regulations that we have. And I started drawing and trying to explain Irina, well, how our system worked. And then she said to me, well, and what can I do now? Because this is, well, this is clear, but how does that count for me? So what we then did is we tried to find out if she could, well, start as a, how do you say, self-employed psychologist, and for example, use me as a main practitioner and start working as a psychologist. But that was not possible, because you can't be a self-employed worker in the Netherlands for this moment, at least as a Ukrainian refugee. But well, we are going to tell you a lot about all the things we think are needed, and also we found out about. And well, from the last sheet, we will go to the first one, I think. And then I give the word to Irina, because she is going to tell you the first important things.
Yes, thank you for introduction, and thank you for inviting us. And I hope that we can share today our experience and help Dutch psychologists and Ukrainian psychologists to work together. But before it, I think it's really important to talk a little bit about mental health and about psychological state of Ukrainian refugees here and now. And maybe we now will discuss some particular topics which are really needed for psychologists here with all this situation. So today we're going to talk about psychological state of refugees, adaptation and integration of refugees in society, Ukrainian psychologists in the Netherlands and how to start working here. And I also can share a little bit my experience, how I went through all this process. And of course, about the features of psychological assistance in Ukraine and what is different in the Netherlands, because we found with Marce a lot of interesting differences between mental health in Ukraine and here in the Netherlands. First of all, we need to mention that now a lot of people who are suffering and live in extremely difficult circumstance and suffer emotionally, because as we know that in Ukraine now it's war and extremely complicated to be there and feel all these awful circumstances and obstacles. So now many women and children had to flee because it is too dangerous to stay. And the situation for Ukrainians is complicated because we have in Ukraine like governmental regulation that men now are not allowed to go abroad. So they need to stay at home. So majority of Ukrainian refugees now in the world are women with children. And of course, it's additional stressor factor because all women, all children now really worrying about their loved ones, about husbands, brothers, grandparents, because they need to stay in Ukraine under shelling and bombardment, unfortunately. So of course, all of us now living in uncertainty about and we all have a lot of questions. When will it end? When we can see our relatives, how they're doing right now there, because we see all this news every day. So we have really a lot of difficult emotions now. And we must understand that all refugees had different traumatic experience now because they arrived in the Netherlands from different regions of Ukraine. Some parts of Ukraine were more shelled, some less, but still all of they proceed with a complex psycho-emotional state. So we need to remember that of course, every individual is unique and their circumstances are also unique. But definitely they all report stress and emotional reaction at what's happening now in Ukraine and what they experience in Ukraine and during the road here to safe place in the Netherlands. And since the Russian aggression starts in Ukraine, we have here in the Netherlands over 60,000 Ukrainian refugees. And of course, we're all extremely grateful and want to say thank you for support from Dutch people and Dutch government. And I think that we need to say a little bit more about reaction which refugees can have now. And the main idea that all reactions now are normal reaction to abnormal events. Because of course, war now in the 21st century, it's something abnormal. And now we have like the list of common symptoms which may occur after traumatic event. So that could be denial and repression of painful experience when it is impossible to remember the situation in detail, feelings of guilty because We flew from Ukraine, and still we have friends and relatives who are staying in Ukraine in a dangerous situation. Mentally, we're experiencing the trauma, for example, with flashbacks, increased irritability for some situations which in normal circumstance you will never react. Fears and panic attacks, sleep problems and nightmares, outbursts of anger with quite usual situations, self-doubt and low self-esteem, distrust of everyone around, because we can feel insecure ourselves everywhere. And of course, we also can see withdrawal from normal life and relationships, feeling unable to control our life and relationship with other people. And sometimes we can see compulsive and obsessive behavior. And as we know from the research, that around 80% of people after a traumatic event can cope with it and without PTSD. But still we have 20 and 25% of people, refugees, who may develop post-traumatic stress disorder. And additional to PTSD, now many refugees suffer from the fact that they have lost friends or family, and in many cases are separate from their loved ones. And also that puts all refugees in the risk of developing additional mental issues. And of course, adaptation here in new country to new culture, new language could be also additional stressor factor. And as I mentioned before, that now majority of refugees are women with children. Of course, we need to say a few words about children's reaction. Because we have here a lot of children and adolescents with in different age groups. So first of all, we can see like physical symptoms. For example, that could be headache, slaughtering, enuresis, digestive disorders, exacerbation of chronic diseases. There's also we can see, for example, in teenagers, isolation, like this behavior reaction when adolescents just don't want to communicate and have quite infantile behavior. For example, I don't want to do this, everything is okay with me, I don't need any help, I will not do any additional things, get away from me, everything is okay. So we need to understand that it's also kind of protective and coping behavior. With younger children, we can see like kind of regression of a child skills, because now many children, due to stress, stay in regressive state. So they like kind of roll back in behavior and reactions to an earlier age. So we can see that they can like whine, talk like a child, fuss. It's also a reaction to stress. And of course, as we know, that in stress, cognitive functions are suppressed, and it can be difficult for children and adults to maintain concentration and be in focus. And also, we together with Marci create like the list which steps are important now and which information should be provided from specialists to Ukrainian refugees. So now we understand that for many Ukrainians, their life is divided into before and now, and we are all uncertain. So it is important not to ask people about the future, but to focus on the here and now, and about all the possibilities which Ukrainian refugees have now. It's also important not to leave a person alone with emotion, especially if the person is willing to talk to us about what happened and what he or she went through. Because of course, if we are silent and pretend that nothing happened, it also hurts. So the best way to react now is to normalize and to say to people that all your emotions are normal. So we need to normalize emotions, thoughts, and feelings. And it is really important for a person to confirm that I am okay, I'm not crazy, and now really I'm a difficult life situation, but I can go through this. Another thing which is also important, that now we are safe, because human psyche can still feel that you are in the center of catastrophic experience. And if the situation allows, it corresponds to reality, we need to show and tell the person that he or she is now in a safe environment, and it's not threatened. Of course, we need to build additional communication. So it's important to say that I'm worried about how you feel now and I want to talk to you, but I also respect you if you don't want to talk and share your experience and your emotions. But sometimes we just need to create the safe place and give this opportunity to people start to talk about all they saw or what they experienced before in Ukraine or during the road here. And also it's extremely important to connect people to all the media which are now available in the community. So there are now a lot of alternatives to convey information. For example, WhatsApp, for Facebook. In Ukraine, we using a lot Telegram. It's something which is similar to WhatsApp, but there we have a lot of channels, and even now we have special channels for Ukrainians in the Netherlands, where people can discuss information, look and answer for different questions, and share information about different activities or mental health or psychological health. So it's really important for people to understand they are not alone, that they are not abandoned, and they know where to go and who to turn to, that the person is a group and a part of society.
Irina, can I ask you something about this? Here you mean like connecting with the media about like daily life and normal things, or also about things going on in Ukraine? Should they share about these events as well, you think, or?
It's more important to share information about like how everything is going on here in the Netherlands, because the system is totally new for us. We used to have a different culture. We used to have different mental health system. Like we don't have insurance in Ukraine. So just, I know, maybe like 3% of population in Ukraine have insurance. So we have like kind of different system, and we're gonna to talk more about it. So now we have really extremely big amounts of questions how everything works. So for Ukrainians now, it's really important to find this information. And unfortunately, but not all Ukrainian people speak well English. So if even we can find information in English here on different Dutch websites, sometimes it's just impossible to read it, because you need to find English versions and you need to translate it. So it's really now crucial to share information about how all systems in the Netherlands works, and where you need to go, with whom you need to contact, and how you can get answers on your questions.
And can you mention some names of these channels as one of the questions, or maybe later on in the chat?
Yes, I think that we will add it also to that list, which we will create with Marcia about the website. Great. So we will put there also these channels from the Telegram.
The app is called Telegram, isn't it?
Yeah. It's called Telegram.
Yeah.
So you put it in the presentation, and the people who are listening now, they can have the presentation, And the people who are not able to listen to this webinar, they can just see it on the slide when they just continue, when they looking back to the recorded. And the recorded version of this webinar will be on World Psychologists website and also the website of PsyGlobal. And PsyFlix, I think it's not that long possible to see afterwards, but they have the live webinars, and to see it later on, you can see it on our website.
That's great. Yeah.
Yes, and I also want to add here that it's really important that this information should be like fixed somewhere, because as we know that cognitive functions do not work as they normally would, and the person can quickly forget information or not to remember where he or she saw it. So like we really need to put all this information in one place and to have easily access to this. Marcia, maybe you will add something about these steps?
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about an example of well, something we made fun of when we just met. Kilian introduced us together, and then he said, well, I let you talk together and I'm leaving now, but you are going to Zundert tomorrow. And I was like, where are you going? You came to the Netherlands and now you're going to Zundert. I haven't been there myself, and I wouldn't even know where Zundert is in the Netherlands, but you were going to Zundert because there you could get your BSN number a lot quicker than in Amsterdam. And so I don't know how you came by the information about Zundert, but well, we were laughing about it, but it turned out to be very important because you needed to register and to get this what we call BSN number. And well, to do that quickly, it was better for you not to apply for it in gemeente Amsterdam, as it was really, really busy over there. And so someone took you to Zundert. And now for me, the rest of my life, Zundert will have a different meaning. But it shows how well, how helpful it is if you come in contact also with Dutch people who are willing to lead you, to take you by the hand and tell you, show you, bring you to places where you can, well, do things that are needed to stay in the Netherlands. So when you say we need social support, it's not only the social support from each other, from the Ukrainian refugees, but also the Dutch people can play a big part in providing social support. And also, well, what is also needed, and you added this, Irina, had to provide the refugees with the information about how the Dutch healthcare system works. And because that's also quite different from what the Ukrainian healthcare system is. And well, when we were trying to find out what information is needed and how do you go to a psychologist, for example, we found out that even I didn't know what exactly is needed, which steps are needed for a refugee to go to a psychologist in the Netherlands. And well, we will talk a little bit more now about all the steps you need to take to, to work together, but also which information you need to tell to the refugees, well, we need this kind of paper or we need that kind of paper. And it turned out to be rather complicated. So what I actually this was another form to fill in this afternoon. I was trying to get this picture and I had to pay for it. It's a paid picture, and I had to fill in a form, and I thought, well, that's okay, that's another form, no problem. I will do it because I really like the picture, and well, we need to start working together, both psychologists from Ukraine and the Netherlands, and not only because of the language problem. Like Irina already told, a lot of Ukrainians don't speak English or don't speak English very well, so it's hard to express themselves. And it's important that they can talk to mental health therapists in their own language. So what is needed to start working together? Well, this is a picture of a doctor, and it shows a lot of purple crocodiles. And I need to introduce you to the phenomenon of purple crocodile before, I will go on talking about all the forms you have to fill in, and the things you need to arrange before you can employ a Ukrainian psychologist are compared to a purple crocodile. And this phenomenon comes from a TV commercial, which an insurance company in the Netherlands launched, about a little girl that forgot her purple crocodile in a swimming pool. And she was trying to get it back, and well, it went the Dutch way. And I'm going to show you in the next slides the commercial. For the Ukrainian people that are listening, I translated the Dutch and I put it up next to the movie. So I hope you can follow and you can see what I mean by a purple crocodile, because it's really an important, phenomenon that when you want to work in the Netherlands, you absolutely need for some relativism of the system. This is the commercial.
Mijn dochtertje is gisteren haar paarse krokodil vergeten.
Paarse krokodil. In blokletters, de juiste locatie van de vermissing, et cetera, et cetera.
Zo.
Achterkant. Woensdagochtend tussen 19 uur inleveren bij dienst recreatie.
Maar hij staat daar.
Ja, hij staat daar.
Weinig rompslomp is wel zo prettig. Ora.
Well, we don't want the commercial for Ora, but I wanted to show you what is meant by purple crocodile. So it means paperwork that is not really necessary or unnecessary, difficult to fill in. And that's what I stumbled upon with Irina. We had to fill in a lot of forms, and we found out that there's no, central point where you can fill in everything at once. You have to find out about all the different steps one at a time and take one at a time. So it also takes up a lot of time before you are ready to start working. We put down a list for refugees who wants to apply for jobs, and it's for the refugees, for the Ukrainian refugees. At this moment, it is they are able to look for jobs without having a working permit, because there is this European regulation that when you have temporary proof of residency, which means you go to, in the Netherlands, you go to the Immigratie- en Naturalisatiedienst, IND, and you fill in a form and you show your Ukrainian passport. They will hand out stickers. Don't ask me why they are using stickers, but they hand out stickers you can put in your passport to show that you are under this special regulation from the European Union. And it's valid until the 3rd of March in 2023. And with this sticker, you can work in the Netherlands without having to get a working permit. Also, I told you about the burgerservice number. Ukrainian refugees have to be registered at the gemeente, and then they can be obtain a citizen service number. We call it BSN, and together with the temporary proof of residency, you can work in the Netherlands. At this moment, there are a lot of initiatives for Ukrainian refugees to, how do you say, well, there are all those agencies that try to find jobs for Ukrainian people. But there are a lot of jobs in restaurants or cafes or in cleaning or whatever. But when you want to work on a other level, like you did in Ukraine, for example, then also it can be a good thing to let your diplomas be checked in the Netherlands. So that, well, when they are kind of equivalent to Dutch diplomas, you can convert them, or they will convert it for you. And then you can, well, work as, for example, a psychologist in the Netherlands. So that's what every refugee has to do. And then if you want to work as a psychologist, it is important that you find a Dutch colleague who is registered in the BIG register, which means well, the jobs we do in healthcare, mental health care, but also in normal healthcare. In the Netherlands, we have to register to be able to perform in our jobs. And you need to have a big registered psychologist that will commit to you as a main practitioner. Which means that the responsibility for the how do you say, for the treatments is finally at the person who is registered in the BIG. And also because Irina and I thought it would be enough just to work together, me as the main practitioner and Irina as the psychologist. But that proved not to be the thing, because you need a contract. As a refugee, and also as a Ukrainian refugee, you can't be self-employed. So you need to make up a contract, and you can do it, for example, like Irina and I did. I'm Irina's employer now. She works in my private practice, but you can also, of course, be hired by a mental health institution in the Netherlands. And I was talking to my accountant about the possibility of doing a 0 hours contract, because we didn't know in advance how many hours there would be work for Irina. But she told me in the CAO GGZ, it's not possible to do the 0 hour contract. So if you would provide your psychologist, your Ukrainian psychologist, with a contract for really a psychologist, then you have to, well, talk about how many hours you want to work together. It's advised to set a temporary contract until the 3rd of March 2023, because that's when the regulation of the European Union ends. But and it's talked about already that it will be prolonged for another 6 months, and after that it also can be prolonged for another 6 months. So that's what you could do also with the contract. When you know the regulations are being prolonged, you can prolong the contract.
Maartje,
yeah.
can I ask something about the 0 hour contract? You say preferably not a 0 hour contract. Is it possible, or can you do like a 1 hour contract, or what is the minimum? Because I think that's an important.
Yeah, well, my accountant says when you want to work with the CAO GGZ, then it's important to at least do 8 hours a week.
Okay. Yeah.
At least. And but there are ways around the CAO. So if you would like to work on other conditions, then you can work around this. But for me, it's important. Irina is coming to work in my practice, where also about 6 other psychologists are working, and they are all in CAO GGZ. And so I thought it is important to me to give Irina the same contract.
And when she is working, and is there always clients from Ukraine, or also English-speaking clients not from Ukraine? Is that also possible? Because if you have a contract, you don't know how many Ukrainian people are coming to your practice.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's at this moment people are really finding us because they seek help for Ukrainian refugees they know, and they ask us, can we refer this refugee to Irina? But Irina is open also for therapies in English. And it's also possible for people to come in and have therapy with Irina, and they are resident of the Netherlands, or they are expats or whatever, and they want to have a therapy in English. But at this very moment, most patients that come in especially for Irina, are from Ukraine. Ukrainian refugees. But we took some, how do you say, well, a little risk. I need to spread the word, and Irina is spreading the word. And well, as Irina already told, it's really important to give information to the refugees about how they get to a psychologist. And I was talking about, well, they have to go to a GP and they have to bring a referral letter, and then, well, we do the intake, and after that we have this plan, and they have to agree on the plan and everything. But for refugees, this is a way too complicated chain to go through. And it's important because they don't have a GP, for example, and then they have to go to a GP and talk to them first, and then go to a therapist and talk to them again about the same things. And a lot of people will say, well, I don't need the help as is this complicated. So what we are doing now is we just see the refugees that would like to talk to a psychologist, and just make an appointment right away with Irina.
Without a referral?
Without a referral, yeah. Because they are, the treatments is not paid from the Dutch insurance. So, well, we thought, okay, then we leave the referral letter out. We are not exactly sure whether that is the correct way to do it, but we thought we need to be a bit practical and yeah, just reach out and help the people who need it most at the moment.
Yeah, and Maartje, there's a question from Kees Mos, and he's asking if, I think it's about the requirements of the contract. He's asking if this is also the case for treatments in other fields, for example, youth care, where you don't have these conditions of the CAO, GGZ. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm not really familiar with the youth healthcare. I'm not exactly sure what kind of contract Dutch psychologists get, but what I know is Irina is working with a child psychologist in Delft at the moment, and the project she works for is paid by Gemeente Delft, as it's youth mental health care. And the problem was that she got an offer from Gemeente Delft for a contract of 224 hours or something like that. And she had to send an invoice for those hours, but she needed to find out how things were going with taxes and with all the social funds we have to pay in the Netherlands herself. And then we found out refugees are not allowed to be self-employed. So this was an impossible construction. So what we did was I added a couple of hours a week to Irina's contract with me. And now I am the one who is having the contract with Gemeente Delft. And I will send the invoice and they will pay me and I will pay Irina.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there are a lot of other questions, but I think we're gonna wait a little to hear what you have to tell us first.
Yeah. I thought, Irina, you wanted to add something.
Yes, I wanted to add a little bit to our previous part when we are talking about refugees who want to receive psychological help here. And in the nearest future, we're gonna have like the really big wave of requests for psychological help for refugees, because as we know that this reaction of adaptation for traumatic events usually takes around half a year. So soon we will have really a big wave of people who need psychological support and psychological treatment. And of course, with all these conditions, especially for Ukrainians who used to have really easy access to psychological help, so we don't need this procedure to go to doctor, to have this referral letter, then wait for appointment for a few months. So in Ukraine, usually it takes maximum 1 week if you want to go to psychologist. So all these steps for Ukrainian refugees with all these circumstances could be like additional obstacles to receive psychological help. And there will be a question if really people will do all the steps to receive this treatment.
So it's important to, make it as easy as possible in the Dutch system to, to get refugees the help that is needed. And beforehand, you asked me, Esther, you asked me a week ago or something already, is it necessary for Ukrainian psychologists to have their diplomas converted? And it's what Irina did. She applied first at DUO, which is how do you say, the organization in the Netherlands for the university degrees. And it took such a long time for them to respond. And then Irina got a response and they told her it would take another 4 weeks to look into something. And then again, it would take another couple of weeks. So Irina decided to had her Ukrainian MDs, so master degrees, evaluated with a paid service. And there are different paid services in the Netherlands. You can find them also on the internet. And she paid and she got rather quickly her Dutch master degree. So that's a nice thing because now she can call herself a basic psychologist. But she also told me that a lot of her colleagues did the same, and their master degrees were converted to bachelor degrees, in Dutch bachelor degrees. And we're not sure what the difference is between, well, Irina did a lot of extra courses and she's got 2 MDs. Maybe that made the difference. We're not sure about that. But I think it's not really necessary at this moment, this point of time, to have your master degree converted to a Dutch equivalent. I'm going to the next slide, where we talk a little bit about the BIG register, because that's something I started to talk about to Irina, and she was like, what? This is all in the law? How is that working? So in the Netherlands, you can practice as an independent psychologist when you are registered in the BIG register. BIG is beroepen in gezondheidszorg in Dutch, and translated it is professions in healthcare. And it is not only for the mental health care, but for all the other healthcare as well. And in the Netherlands, we try to regulate and check the quality of mental health and it's protected by this law. And well, we try to protect our patients from incompetence or negligence. And it's important, if you want to work in the system of the healthcare, so the insurance companies will pay for the treatment you give to the patients. It's important to be registered in the BIG register, and to get to that point, after your master degree in the Netherlands, you have to do a long-term postmaster education. And after finishing this education, you can register in the BIG as, for example, a psychotherapist. And we have also other titles. I'm not going to go into that at this moment because, well, it will be too difficult. Irina was a psychotherapist almost when she had to leave Ukraine. And she was not yet registered in Ukraine, but well, we tried to ask the people of the BIG register whether she could apply to be a registered psychologist, GZ-psycholoog. But that's not possible in the Netherlands when you don't speak Dutch. You need to speak Dutch to get access to the exams you need to take. And so you have to speak Dutch, you have to take exams, and they will establish your well, psychologist level. And mostly they will also tell you you have to take extra education before you get into the register. So that's a very big step, which a lot of psychologists can't take, Ukrainian psychologists at this moment, because of the language problem. So if you want to stay in the Netherlands for a longer time, well, it should be best if you learn Dutch as soon as possible.
But it is possible without the big registration. But you have the construction you did. But if you want to have the big registration, you need to do the Dutch exams.
Exactly.
Yeah. But for now, it's possible to do like also mental health for if it is by insurance, by companies, by insurance company, they will pay.
Yeah, because you will work with a main practitioner. Hoofdbehandelaar of refugee-behandelaar, we call it in the Netherlands. And in that construction, like all the basic psychologists in the Netherlands, the Ukrainian psychologists also can work in that construction. So that's no problem at this moment. But if you well, for Irina, for example, she's used to work for herself, and now I have to, well, control her work. I'm in the end, I'm the responsible therapist. And I can imagine for a lot of people, it would be nice to be recognized as psychotherapists themselves.
Yes, and there's also a question. Vlada, she knows expert therapists without a big registration who work with self-paying expert clients. And that's of course not with the insurance. And then you can have like because you can say I'm a psychologist, because that's not a protected title.
True.
So if you make a website and you say, okay, I'm a psychologist, and expert want to pay, or people just want to pay for a consult, that's fine. You can just do you can do your own practice. But when you do it like with insurance, patients, then you have to do with a regiebehandelaar.
Exactly. Yeah. But the problem at this moment is that only the people who are resident or have a working permit in the Netherlands can start their own practice. Irina can't register with KVK, Kamer van Koophandel. All Ukrainian refugees can't do that at the moment. So you can't work for yourself and get paid legally at this moment.
Yeah.
You understand? So for now, that is not possible, but maybe in the future when Ukrainian refugees will be residents of the Netherlands or getting the working permits, well, then it's possible as a psychologist, of course, to work with self-paying people. And one of the things Irina was told when she got her MD, her Dutch MD, note that psychologist is not a protected title in the Netherlands. And so she was really happy to get the title, and it's not a protected title. So, my neighbor can call herself a psychologist as well. So that's a bit strange to explain, but that's how it works in the Netherlands.
And
since there are 15 minutes left, so can you tell us a bit more about the first steps for those psychologists, the Dutch and the Ukrainian, who want to try at least to see how it works? And
yeah, well, the most important thing is that you match with a big registered therapist who wants to be your main practitioner. Then what you need to do is, I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, you need to make the contract preferably according to the CAO-GGZ. What you also need to do as an employer is to make an official announcement with the UWV that you are hiring a Ukrainian refugee. Don't ask me why that is exactly, I don't know, but we have to do it. And then you have to find resources to be able to to get paid for the therapies the Ukrainian psychologist is going to give. And the most important way of getting paid at this moment is through the CAK. You can ask for a subsidy. I think it's a really strange word to use for paying treatment, but all Ukrainian refugees that are not working in the Netherlands get essential medical help paid through a subsidy you can ask for at CAK. Again, it's difficult and they are really, really strict. So you have to look into the procedure beforehand to get the subsidy, but it should work. And all the refugees, can ask for help if needed, and the payment will come from CAK.
Yeah, maybe something to add. I saw a webinar of them last week, and it was very confusing, and you had to do a lot of steps, and they were really strict. But they're really making it easier now, and they're working on a new subsidy. It's called RMO.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to make it more accessible in order for all the health practitioners to start working.
That's great news. That's really great news. Yeah, because I think it's rather ridiculous, all the steps you have to take at this moment. But well, I really hope they will well introduce that very quickly.
Yeah, I think starting from July.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's nice. And so I told about the contracts with the gemeente earlier in the webinar. So that's also a possibility, but you as the main practitioner or as the employer need to take the contracts and pay the Ukrainian psychologist a salary.
And Maartje, can you tell a little bit more about CAK, what it stands for, what it's exactly?
Yeah, I've been looking it up this afternoon and I wrote it down somewhere and I totally forgot what it means, but
it's really like a government, and it's a government, and it's about it's when I look on the internet, it's about people who not paying or not have no insurance, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the payments come from what we have in the Netherlands is called AWBZ. A long time ago, all the mental health was paid for by the government from the AWBZ, and now the CAK is also paying the subsidies out of this old AWBZ system.
So you mean that when there is a Ukraine client at your practice and Irina is doing the treatment,
yeah,
the CAK is paying that treatment?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are paying for the treatment, and the only thing now it's already a little bit easier. You only have to establish that your patient is a Ukrainian refugee by just checking the passport, and then you again you have to fill in forms, but that's a little bit easier. And then they will give you the subsidy for the treatment.
And is it limited or is it unlimited?
Well, actually, that's a very good question, and I don't know yet.
Okay.
But as I understood it from the temporarily law that is effective at this moment, you can get all the help you need, as long as it is necessary, and it's in what we call the basisverzekering in the Netherlands.
Yeah, and you and the salary you pay to Irina, is that all the money from the CAK she get, or is that did you have, because the insurance, maybe other things of the practice you do? Can maybe, I don't know if it is okay to talk about that because it's about your salary, but a little bit to see how the is if it is enough money compared to the salary, for example.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I thought it would be fair to give Irina a normal CAO GGZ salary. So she is paid as a basic psychologist with a couple of years experience, and that's the salary she gets. And I'm not sure whether the subsidy and the gemeente Delft pays enough, but for me, I want to pay this to be fair, and in comparison with all the other psychologists in my practice, I think it's fair to give her the same salary. So we'll see in the end. I'm not sure about it. You also need to take a little bit of a risk sometime.
And maybe compared to the time, we have to continue quick. So to be continue and to see if you need.
Yeah, so I think that it's important now maybe mention some cultural differences, especially the mental health system. So now in Ukraine, we have like active developing psychological culture. So in general, psychological field became popular maybe last 5 years, and mostly among young generation, so people who are under 30. And with older generation, we still have sometimes the stigma that if I'm going to psychologist, that means that something wrong with me, or maybe I'm crazy, or I need additional help. So now we are really in this active development process. That's why before I told that all these steps for us, it's really like kind of obstacles, because to make this decision to go to psychologist, kind of difficult for Ukrainians in these circumstances. So another cultural difference also is that we have easy access to psychological help. So we can just find a psychologist in the social media or in the internet, or we have also like kind of special organization, but mostly they're private. So we don't have this governmental regulation in Ukraine. So we can just have appointments on the same weeks or on the next week. So we don't need to wait for a few months to have this access to psychological help. Mostly we have psychologists in private sector. So of course we have like governmental psychological help, but in generally psychologists in Ukraine work as self-employed or in private psychological centers. And the other thing is also that, as I mentioned before, it's unregulated by government. So the prices are really have like wide distance, because each psychologist just decided by itself how much I will earn. And as I told also before, that we don't have insurance system, because normally we have like free medical services. Of course, we can pay sometimes for it, but the prices are extremely cheap. Or if you want to have additional service, you can always go to private clinics in Ukraine. But if we're talking about psychological help, people usually pay by themselves. So also this difference with insurance system, we need to understand, and we need to have this explanation how in general this all insurance system works.
And can I ask you something, Irina? Yeah. Because from World Psychologists, we provide free mental health support. Mm-hmm. We do the online support matching with people from Ukraine and psychologists, volunteer psychologists from the Netherlands, or psychologists from Ukraine. We also have a lot of them in our network. But that is like a free psychological support. Mm-hmm. Is that you think, well, it is free, thus it will, yeah, it is not good, or is it just like, is there something feeling about that?
I think that we as a psychologist work in such profession that the main idea is to provide psychological help and support. So for me, as a psychologist, always happy when I see that people receive good and qualified psychological help. I also participate in Ukraine at the beginning of war in different free projects with psychological help, because I understand that in all this circumstance when people losing their houses, members of family, sometimes they just can't pay. And in all these circumstances, payment is it's not the most important thing. So for me, my opinion and my like human position is that I'm happy that people can have access to psychological help.
But then the next thing is that when you are in the Netherlands and you are a psychologist and you would like to work, I think you should earn a reasonable salary as a Ukrainian psychologist, because Irina now lives with a host family. But I think it's really important for her to be able to rent a house or small apartment or something like that. And she needs money to live from and to buy clothes and food and everything. And in the start, when we started to get working together and the word got out, Irina was in my practice. A lot of people asked for her help for free, and now I told some people, no, we are not doing it anymore. You have to pay for her advice, because we need to provide for her salary at this moment. So I'm always up for some volunteering work, but I think it's also important for the professionals in the Netherlands to earn a salary. So that's so that they can build up their own life again, which is very important.
Yes, and then Irina, something about the stigma. Can you tell your friends, I'm going to see a psychologist, or is it not that you're talking about that right now?
Usually when like in my generation and in people who are around 30 and under 30, like we are more free to talk, that I feel that I need additional help or I need support, so I'm calling psychologist. So like among younger generation, it's easier and it's open, and now we have like full social medias with psychologists, psychological help, psychological advices. So like we are now more open to for this. But older generations, they like not so easily ready to talk about psychologists or psychological help in general.
Irina and Marty, is it okay for you to go to the questions, or is there anything else you would like to share or tell us?
I think we ended, or we started where we would end. So I think maybe the questions can come in, no problem.
Okay. I saw one question and I'm curious after that as well. Do you need to have an official diagnosis for the client you're seeing in order to declare the cost with the CAK or with the RMA, the other place? Do you need to diagnose it? Because last week with Tim, we were talking about being careful too soon going into psychological disorders. And
yeah, well, it depends. If you really start psychological treatment and you ask for the subsidy, you need to how do you say, tell about why you need this is a necessary help.
mm-hmm.
But for example, the project Irina is doing in Delft is a project for prevention, and there are, they did intakes, but they don't give the official diagnosis. I don't even think they have the official diagnosis, the children.
I think that in general, we need like more than 1 hour and a half to talk about this project, because all this work which we did with Felicia Stoutersdijk and Maria Rupert and Delft municipality, it's really amazing, because we prepared a special program for Ukrainian teenagers for a very short amount of time, and now we are providing this support groups. And I think that that would be nice if we can share also our experience about that, because we have a lot of children and teenagers here in the Netherlands, and of course they need psychological support and help.
Yeah, so you should come back one day to tell us more about that.
Definitely.
And maybe you can already, is there a website or a place where people can read about it, that you can put it in the chat?
I think that we can prepare some information with Felicia, and we can share it also.
Yeah, like you said, you can talk for hours about this project.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. I think one important question from Ala, she is asking if she can refer Ukrainian people to you and how she should do it. Well, I think you're already quite busy with all the people you're seeing in all the projects, but do you know how people can refer clients to you or to other Ukrainian psychologists?
Well, the same way, I think, so they can write to me or to Marcia, and we can provide them psychological support, psychological help. And also we have community of psychologists, and last webinar we saw Valentina Parobi, she's the leader of this community. So we have around like 100 psychologists from Ukraine here in the Netherlands.
Yeah. And maybe good to mention, I see a question from Claire as well. And she said, like, years ago, I heard the message that, well, that it was not allowed to be connected to someone and to start working. Because I think, Irina, you have some space to see more people, but at a certain point, you are full as well. So we need more couples like you.
Yeah, I think at this moment, well, Irina has some time left, a little bit of time, but I think it's really important to get a lot of couples going in the next few months. Yeah, and well, if people like to refer, they also can go to my website. Irina is also on my website. And you can always contact us, it's no problem, and we will see if Irina has some time, or we can refer to another colleague.
Nice. Wow. Let's see if there is any question left. One question was also about recordings. It is recorded. And it has to be edited first, and after that we put it on the website of World Psychologists and also PsyGlobal. So on PsyFlix is only the webinar live, and the recorded are on the other websites. For the next week, it's also important that to sign in again. So every webinar you have to sign in, then you get a new link. And yeah, what can we tell more?
Just
you're mute. Sorry,
I just start to be a pioneer, and just well, go to Esther or go ahead to us with more questions about working together. And well, that was the take-home message, I think. So
it's really nice.
The most important.
Really important to say that we still have to sort things out, and things are changing every month or so, but there are ways, it is possible. So, well, take the risk, like you're saying, just get started, and
yeah,
this should work. Thank you so much, Marcia and Irina, for sorting this out and making this presentation and sharing this with us. I hope you inspired more people.
Yeah, we hope so too, I think. Yeah. Thank you for giving us.
Maybe it's also maybe it's also good when the psychologists from World Psychologists are connected to someone from Ukraine. We have a supervision group. So maybe it's also nice to know that all the Ukraine who really want to have a paid job, maybe they have 1 hour a week free to see if they can also do like an online free mental health support with psychologists. And the supervision group is also nice to have a connection between the Dutch and the Ukraine, because we have a group together with the psychologists.
Yeah,
nice. So that's also a good reason maybe for them to participate. So if you have any reaction on this webinar, please put it on LinkedIn, because then it will spread and it will get more people get informed about our webinars. So if you have a reaction, please put it on LinkedIn. You can follow World Psychologists on LinkedIn, PsyGlobal, PsyFlix, and also Esther in person or me in person, that we will promote the next video hopefully soon. And thank you very much, Irina and Maartje. And we hope to see everyone next week.
For sure. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.